Hello, I'm Paul McKinnon. Some of you may recognize me from the various raptor rescue videos that I've put up on the Carolina Arbors Facebook page over the last year or so. Well, today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the organization I volunteer for, the American Wildlife Refuge, what the refuge does, and a little bit about our birds. I've been interested in raptors for years. My first hawk walk was about 18 years ago in Manchester, Vermont at the British School of Falconry. I spent 2 hours with a falconer, and I learned so much about falconry and raptors that I knew I wanted to learn more. Now, before we moved from Massachusetts to North Carolina 2 years ago, I did a Google search to find a raptor rehabilitator, and that's how I found the American Wildlife Refuge. This is a 100% volunteer organization that rescues, and when possible, rehabilitates and releases birds of prey, raptors. We've got golden eagles, we do hawks, owls, vultures, falcons. On occasion we do great blue herons and even cranes. But before I could become a volunteer, I had to attend a raptor rehabilitation class that Steve Stone, the director, teaches at Wake Tech Community College. We learned a little bit about the birds during the classroom sessions, and then we had labs where we actually got to hold some of the educational birds, like this one, and learn how to do an examination on a bird, because that's what you're doing when you rescue one. In 2019, the refuge rescued 288 birds, and virtually every one of those birds came to us because of a call from somebody who saw a bird that had been injured. Not all rescues end well. Euthanizing a bird that has been severely injured is sometimes the best thing we can do for them. It's sad, but the alternative is even sadder when you realize a bird may be out on its own and unable to fend for itself. Well, let me tell you about the good times. I've rescued over 40 birds so far this year. Some of them have been as easy as going in and getting a bird that can't fly, picking it up and putting it into one of our rescue crates. Others require me to run through the woods to catch a vulture who's got a broken wing, but whose legs work just fine. I've also had to get a red-tailed hawk that crashed into someone's screen porch by crashing through the screen door. And my most adventurous was probably a barred owl that had been caught in a tree. I had to put on waders, walk out into the pond, get the bird because he was tied up in fishing line and had to be rescued. Great blue herons are also fun. Great blue herons are interesting because while they don't have talons, they do have long beaks that they can use as a spear. The first thing you need to do when you capture a great blue heron is grab the head. I get really excited about capturing raptors. Most people just get to see them when they're flying a few hundred feet above you. But being able to rescue one and look into its eyes is something not everybody gets to do. Of course, when you rescue one, they're also trying to bite you with their beaks and grab you with their talons. But to me, that's just part of the excitement. By the way, in this part of North Carolina, the largest hawk, the red-tailed hawk, and the largest owl, the great horned owl, only weigh up to about 3.5 pounds. Now, the interesting thing is the red-tailed hawk's grip strength and talons is between 400 and 600 pounds per square inch, while the great horned owl has a grip strength of 2,000 pounds plus. After rescuing a bird, I'll take it to one of the local vets that the organization works with, where hopefully they can repair any damage. If they can, I'll take it back to the refuge, where we'll keep it, rehabilitate it, and release it. Some of the birds stay with us for as little as a week. Some will stay for months. On average, it costs about $1,500 a month in order to feed the birds. And although the refuge is required by law to have licenses from both the state and federal governments in order to rehab the birds or to keep some as educational birds, we don't get any funding from either the state or the federal government. Okay, so what happens when we have a bird that's ready to be released? And to me, this is the most fun part and rewarding part of the program. When possible, we will take the bird back and release it to where we found it. I have released birds in people's backyards. I have released birds in city parks. I have done it in the woods next to a river. I have done it with small owls behind supermarkets that have bright lights. Why? Because little owls like to eat moths and things like that, and they're attracted to the bright lights, so it's a good place for the owls to get food. Each bird has a different requirement. Yes, I know. Each bird has a different requirement, and we have to be aware of those requirements when we release them. One of the things the refuge is looking forward to is getting back to doing educational events. These events that are held in conjunction with local companies, businesses, charities, things of that sort. And we'll usually bring an assortment of hawks and owls, usually a falcon, and perhaps our black vulture Snoopy. These events are a way to get the public up close, but not too close to what the birds are all about. While you would think a small child would be excited about seeing one of these birds, it's actually the parents who get more excited, because it's the first time in their lives they've actually got this close to a wild raptor. These events are also our main source of donations throughout the year. A little while ago, I mentioned state and federal licenses. And here's some interesting facts. The U.S. government owns all birds of prey. Organizations like the American Wildlife Refuge are simply caretakers of these birds. It is illegal for anyone to own a raptor unless they are a licensed rehabber, use the birds for educational purposes, or are a licensed falconer. It's also illegal to possess a feather from one of these birds, particularly a bald eagle. Bald eagle feathers are kept and sent to a government office, where they are then in turn sent out to Native American tribes so that they can be used in ceremonial dress and events. Here's another interesting fact. Every cage we have at the Raptor Center has to be a particular size, width, height, length, based on U.S. government requirements. We do rescue bald eagles, but we can't rehab bald eagles, because the cage for a single bald eagle has to be 16 feet high, 20 feet wide, and 100 feet long. And our facilities right now just can't accommodate something that size. In addition, every bird that's brought into the refuge has to be documented with all sorts of information so that monthly reports can be submitted to both the state and federal governments. If you think doing taxes is fun, try being a raptor rehabilitator. Rescuing wild raptors isn't necessarily the goal of all of our volunteers. Some of them like to come in and do the cage cleaning that's always needed, or to participate in the events that we do where they get to hold the bird and tell the public all about it. Throughout the year we do these events, or at least most years, obviously not this year, but they're a great way for the public to learn all about our birds. Others like to get involved in things such as doing social media and helping with fundraising. Now, some of you may be thinking this sounds crazy, some of you may be thinking this is exciting, but before you ask, unfortunately the answer is no, you cannot come to the refuge. The refuge is on private property, and therefore we can't allow people who are not licensed or at least trained volunteers to be on the property. The refuge is relocating to a location where we can be open to the public and do our own events, but this is still at least a year or two away. Now, you're probably wondering who this is on my glove. This is Forrest, a barred owl. Forrest came from Wake Forest, where he'd been hit by a car. While he looks fairly good size, he actually weighs only about 1.5 pounds because he is primarily feathers and hollow bones. And I can go in that far before hitting his chest. His dark eyes let you know that he hunts at night, and his hearing is so keen that he can hear your heartbeat from 20 feet away. Pity the poor mouse that tries to get away from him in the leaves on the forest floor, because it's not going to happen. If you see an owl like a great horned owl that has yellow eyes, they hunt at dawn and dusk. So dark eyes at night, yellow eyes dawn and dusk. In addition to Forrest, who was found in Wake Forest, we also have a number of other birds. We have Speedy, the eastern screech owl, who was hit by a speeding car. Then we have a great horned owl, who's been hit by a car twice, shot once, has a semi-detached retina, and had an infected talon. So what do you call a great horned owl you can't kill? Rasputin, of course. In addition to Rasputin, we have Pellet, who is a red-shouldered hawk, and we have Blinky, who is a western screech owl that only has one eye. That's the name, Blinky. I want to thank you for watching today. I hope you found it interesting. If you have any questions, or you'd like to have someone like Forrest come and visit you at home with your grandchildren, please let me know. Arrangements can be made. Thank you again. Have a good day. Say goodbye, Forrest.